This is to all of the agents that are out there that are very well aware of what's going on with the children, that know a lot and that are scared from coming forward. You know, I saw, I did The Passion of the Christ, and when the movie was over, 2 people that had committed murder came forward and turned themselves in. That was how powerful that film is. This one has the reverse. You watch it, you feel God's love and the power in this movie, Sound of Freedom, and it makes you unafraid. I was willing to come forward and speak truthfully on things like adrenochrome, organ harvesting, and was severely reprimanded by much of the media. And they claimed their fact checkers knew more, but they don't know like you guys know. I put you up against them anytime. And so, but I was a burden that I was no longer burdened with anymore. My career, I would never put in front of the children. And I just ask you to look in your heart, to go to the film Sound of Freedom, which is a phenomenal movie which represents you, and let that be your word against what these liars have done for a long, long time. Your word, which is from God, and to speak the truth to the American people. My prayers are with you. I love you guys. Thank you for all the help that you gave me. It's what you do. Faith without your works is dead. 1 James. So many people say, but they don't do. And I was doing. And I felt good at what had done and was doing. Now, fifth take, it was bizarre. The wind was blowing hard, and the clouds were. It felt like I could jump up and touch them, and that was very mystical. What was happening in the ground? You could feel something in the ground, and then the wind was blowing, and I couldn't. I could see everybody. There were about 350 people that were around me on a hill, and the wind was blowing, and then I couldn't hear the wind, and I could feel the suctioning occur, and then it was probably more like 3 seconds. It felt like 5, but it was probably less than that, and then boom, it shot me out of my body. I saw the back side, not here, and then I was back. Then Jan Michelini runs over, and I remember looking at him, and all of a sudden I saw his hand blow up. Sparks came out. There was another shot that came down, and then I was in shock. And then I was on a lot of medication until 2009 was my first surgery at Stanford, and then my second one was at Cleveland Clinic in 2014, and that saved me, saved my life. I died on the operating table. I've never told that, but I died. Dr. Gillinoff, Dr. Griffin were my doctors. They witnessed it. They brought me back, but I was supposed to be here. But the reason why I brought that up is I felt incredible peace and love that's waiting for us.
When you died?
Yes. It was amazing. And I didn't, I had this, just hang on for a second. It was really calm. And then I saw the whole thing. It didn't hurt. The moment it was like taking an egg, cracking it, and then it just came out, and I was dead. I didn't have to breathe anymore. And I was looking at everybody running the room, and they were panicking. And I mean, they were doing stuff, but they were really scared.
Wow, you remember this?
No, I saw it. I watched the whole thing. And I watched everything. And then I saw them put the flaps on, and then when I came back, that's when it hurt. But the horn, I heard the horn go off. It didn't hurt my ears, but it was like when I first met God, you know, when he asked me to become an actor, I felt this great peace and love. The reason why I'm talking about it right now is because so many people don't have the peace. They don't have the love. And when I was on the cross, you know, Jesus, he says 7 things. And he says, woman, behold your son. To John, he says this. John, behold your mother. In Aramaic, woman is Inthatha. And then he calls her also Emi, mother. He differentiates. People have to say, why? The woman is Genesis. I will put enmity between the woman's seed and his. And the Mother Mary is the ark. She carries the Son of God to us. And she is the most beautiful thing there's ever been. And he asks me to love. I'm obeying Jesus. I'm obeying him. Jim, why don't you go to Jesus? Because I'm obeying Jesus when he told me to take. The mother and the sons of Zebedee were at the foot of the cross. The mother of Zebedee, James and John, their mother was there. I'm sure she went, wait, I'm the mother. Jesus often talks about who's my brother, who's my sister, you know? And he also says, I didn't come to bring peace into this world. I came like a sword to divide. And that's the generational sin that's passed on. A lot of us lose our own families. He says, who's my brother? You're my brother. You know, we're not of the same DNA, but we're adopted under God. You're my adopted brother, you know, my sister, family. We can have new families, people that support us in our love for him. And you'll find that, you know, it's like how Jesus found these fishermen to lead the church. My God, it's incredible. He's still looking for good fishermen, still looking for good Davids.
When you had that out-of-body experience on the operating table, when you were revived, was there any time for feeling, oh man, I don't know if I want to go back? Or was it just all of a sudden snap of the finger and you're back?
There's an intelligence with the soul that's bizarre. It knows the distance when God lands in a room. Why that's significant? It just is. Your soul knows another language. So the moment I died, I could feel and understand this. Hang on a second. We've got this kind of a thing.
Okay.
But you're dead. It's all good. But on that side, it's like nothing. It's amazing, you know. And I had an experience when I was doing the Passion, and Jesus visited me a couple times. It was pretty amazing. And one of them was, he was off the left side of my bed, and he was weeping. And it was extraordinary because I was so cold. I had a crucifix, the true cross, in my left hand. It was chained around my wrist, and I was hypothermic, so it was over 90 degrees in the room, and I had tons and tons of clothes on, and I was shaking. And it hurt to shake because my shoulder was torn. And And I looked over the left side of my bed, and there he was. And I didn't hesitate. I didn't go, oh my gosh, I'm having an apparition here. I just went, why is my Lord weeping? And I got on my bed and I put my arms around him. And I said, Lord, what's wrong? And he pointed to the ground. And on the ground were all of these cards, jacks, kings and queens. No number cards, just jacks, kings, and queens. And they had all these face cards all over. And their faces were death faces. Jesus says, I am the vine, you are the branches. You live in me, live for eternal life, you know. But when the leaf separated from the tree, that was their death mask, right before they entered into hell. These people were giving incredible gifts all throughout time. And they started with 1 for me, 9 for God, 2 for me, 8 for God, and eventually 9 for me, 1 for God, and then all for me. This is how the game works. And I knew that he was telling me when I asked him, I don't want them to see me, I only want them to see you. I believe he was warning me. Do you understand that where this could go? Because there's going to be a version of you going to heaven, and then there's a version of you going to hell. And I said, I will never betray you. I know what Peter said. I've learned from them. I will not do that to you. So when you asked me earlier, you've done this, this. Yes, those are good things. But you don't want to have a 0 in your life. 1 times 0 is 0. But so is 1,000,000,000 times 0. You lose everything. So it's a daily thing. And finish the race and finish it strong.
That's a great way to put it. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Let's move into your latest project, Sounds of Freedom, with Tim Ballard. How did that come about?
By making the right decision today. Tim Ballard saw The Count of Monte Cristo, and that was a rough one. That was a hard film, because there was a point there where they removed God from the screenplay. And I asked them to put it back in, and they did. But the scenes were too long. They had to be shortened. But that God will give me justice was not in there when I got the rewrite, when I came to Ireland to shoot it. That had to go back in. So I was the wrong guy for the movie unless they put it back in. Thankfully they did. So that's the film that Tim saw. The other film was The Passion, and he was profoundly moved by those 2 films. Now, because of the trouble I got in after The Passion, when they clearly said this is an anti-Semitic film, and I clearly said that Jesus is a Jew, and we have science behind this, I've done nothing wrong. And this film is a righteous film. And look at the public. They love this movie. Why will you not allow me to work in this town? Okay, now I did get parts. I had friends that gave me great favors and helped me along. But it wasn't the same from that point on. Now, Tim Ballard saw those 2 films. And had I not made the decision, I'd never, been a part of it. But again, when God asked me, I'd like you to be an actor, it wasn't going to be easy. This was going to be one of the hardest things I've ever done. And it just short of The Passion. But it was the hardest thing because of the children. Now, Tim Ballard came to me. First was Eduardo Verostegui, the producer of the movie, and Alejandro Monteverdi, the director. Both very talented and both extremely needed in this particular team. It required a producer that was going to lose all the money on the movie, and we were finished. Disney was going to buy Fox. So Disney, obviously, when they saw this movie, there are executives that want the film, but they're, eventually the bad won out, and this is not something they want to represent their company. Count of Monte Cristo, okay, but not this one. They did not want me for this role. Whoever it was at Fox, when Tim met with them, and he said, no, I gotta have this guy. This is who I want. So I met those three individuals, and that led us to go down to Colombia. And my wife just saw a movie or a show called Narcos, and she didn't want me anywhere near down there in this particular time when we were down there. It was crazy. And Tim said, well, tell Carrie, my wife, that Jim will have 30 Navy SEALs around him. Sure, some of them are Rangers and Delta too, but anyway. They always say SEAL teams. Anyway, one day I was at work, she gets on the phone, she calls me, and she goes, do you have protection around there? I said, oh yeah. And I don't know, maybe only 2 today. Where are they? They told me. And well, in this particular moment, they were on a mission. They took down a really big group of guys, and they saved 200 children while we were filming. So wasn't the safest place. At one point we were in cartel and area, and where we were shooting, I went to go get my sunglasses, and I had guys like you coming up to me and going, you can't ever do that again. They'll pick you up here in a heartbeat. And we were in their territory.
What part of Colombia were you in?
Bogota, Cartagena, Santa Marta, and then Medellin.
Oh, you did quite the tour.
Oh yeah.
So, I don't know a whole lot about the film as it's not out yet, but it's about, from my understanding, it's about the life of Tim Ballard, what he's doing, and what he's doing is saving children all across the world from being sex trafficked, exploited sexually. Yeah, so he CIA moves to Homeland Security, and the frustration is he's getting these pedophiles and these traffickers, but he's not able to save the children. That's what he really wants to do. They were down in Calexico, and where they took down the guy, Ernst Limpaczynski, the guy that I come in one of the worst trafficker pedophiles I've ever seen. And they picked this guy up, and this little boy, about 5 years old, and he says, will you save my sister? And that is a question. It's like a mark on his heart, and he couldn't, it's like the Bible where Jesus says the kingdom of heaven, it's like a pearl. He would sell everything, do anything to attain this. That's what he did. He went down to Colombia, sold his house to hit the money, what he had out, and he was 10 days of getting his pension, and he goes down to Colombia to find this little girl. So it's like... That's what Tim did?
Yeah, that's what he did.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so it's taken, the film, but with a huge heart,
So is the entire film in Colombia?
Yes. Well, I mean, we shot it parts in the U.S. and Calexico at the border as well.
Let's talk about some facts.
Sure.
To go into sex trafficking. It's considered a modern form of slavery. The United States is the #1 consumer and producer of child abuse content. The Department of Homeland Security estimates that child trafficking has an annual global profit of $150 billion.
human trafficking has already passed the illegal arms trade and is going to pass the drug trade. About 2 million children are trafficked every year worldwide. That's how serious this is. That's just a few.
But that's just the
facts.
beginning of it all. I mean, the trafficking, it's first part to the public. You know, I've learned you get too far in front of the narrative, they don't believe you. If you were talking about trafficking around 290, when I was doing Monte Cristo, you never heard about it. And it'd be conspiracy theorists.
Do you think this is getting bigger, or do you think that the information is just getting out? Do you think, I guess what I'm asking, do you think it was always this?
I think it's much bigger.
You think
than
it's
that.
growing?
Oh, I think it's already bigger than that. I think it's much bigger because I've talked to Tim about the numbers from other guys and then gone over to Tim and goes, yeah, I mean, those are good numbers and everything, but it's bigger than that because there's other forms of the business.
This is just what we know.
Yes, on that part. I mean, it's we've been talking about 6 million. 2 million at least are also involved in the organ harvesting and all the other shit that's the stuff that it's just beyond. They're cattle. These are cattle. It's like buying cows. What do you do with a cow? You know, you milk them, you do it, but you also eat the meat and all that other stuff. And it's far worse than people are willing to go to. But listen, it's not going to solve the problem by people. This is an analogy. I was swimming in the ocean. I got into swimming and everything, and on the Ridley Scott movie, and I swam, and it was kind of freeing, you know, breaking the surf and doing all that. But just that when you're, you know, I don't know how many hundreds of feet down or how deep you are, some great white shark looking at you and going, "Is that a seal? What is?" And I say, God, please tell them I'm a human then, or something they shouldn't mess with. But anyway, I just I would pray in the water, you know, just as and of course the common sense in me is like, you know, you have a better chance of going down an airliner. But anyway, I went out and was filming in South Africa, and I got to dive great whites. It was fascinating. And every time we'd chum the water, and then we'd throw a tuna head out, and the great white would come by. He never just munched it, ever, never, not once. They always bumped. And so I guarantee you that if you were in the water and you got bumped by a great white, the guy said to me, "What do you think they're doing?" He says, "They have a little brain. Yours is bigger than theirs. You have to be smarter than them." And he says, "Yeah, but," I said, some of these fish, they're like whales, they're like 2 tons. And he says, "Do you think they went to school in the morning, mate? Do you think they sat there and said, you weigh 4,000 pounds, he's only 200 pounds? No, you have to be smarter than them." So, what do you do if a great white bumps you? And I said, "Well, I'd be scared and I would swim to shore." Oh, and he says, "You know how fast they can swim in the water?" He says, "At 40 miles an hour. So the fastest swimmer in the world can outswim this." So that's the smart guy. Now, he's actually the dumb guy. And when you splash, 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 you are saying, "Come eat me." It's exciting him. He said, "Oh, your food, okay." It's nothing personal. Yeah, but he's gonna have to eat you. So if you program it in your brain that you're swimming and you think about it a lot, what would you do? And he bumped you. If you immediately attacked him, because it's only an instant that he bumps you, and you scratch his eyeball or grab his gill, he's gone. Doesn't want to mess with you, because these sharks, these great whites in the womb, if there's 7 babies in there, the winner is the one that eats all of them. That's how they're born. That's how they are fed in the womb. Then they're born and they come out fighting. And so they know if they don't know what you are, they're gonna bump you to see what you do. So think of that when it comes to children. All right, you have 4 children. It's 4th of July. You're sitting outside there, and you don't want to know about all the bad things that are going on. Your child's taken. You're never going to see that child again. Now, go to that mother and father and ask them, would you have wished you had some sort of plan that could have prevented that from happening? They're going to say yes, but they won't. They won't do it. And if you just looked around, the film is powerful because when you watch it, you learn, oh, these are the warning signs. This is how routinely it occurs. This is what they're looking for. Then when you're looking, and it's what I talked about earlier, God here, it's like Michael the Archangel, you're with you, and you're a stalker. You're a predator. You're letting them know. You'll go after them. And they don't want anything to do with this, so the great white walks away. No more trouble. No more. Why people don't do this, I don't understand. But this is not the Bible that I know, that I read. We have to weaponize ourselves from God's shield and his protection and stop being afraid of the devil. Do you know more Christians, these modern day Christians, are more afraid of the devil than they are of God? Let me explain. God could kill the devil without a glance. The devil has no chance against God. This isn't it, you know, God here and the devil here, Jesus here and the devil here. It's this. It's more like, here's a creature, devil, here's a creature, human. What are we, I'm going to ask Almighty to come into me and to not be afraid. We talked about it earlier. Jesus, in Scripture, 365 times, one time every day in the Bible, says, do not be afraid.
There's a reoccurring theme here, and it's overcoming fear. From talking to you about your childhood, doing the Passion, doing this, now Great Whites, now the Bible. We talked, you'd brought up organ harvesting, and that's something I didn't realize that we were going to get into that. Is that in the film? Did we talk about that in the film?
No. It doesn't go into that.
Okay.
We don't go into that.
Okay.
We go into the trafficking part of it. It's the going into what I had to look at to get to where I needed to go. So I have many agents that I've worked in 30 years, my career, that trust me, that have worked with me. And when I was reading the script, I wanted to know about Tim Ballard. How is all of this true? Yes. Okay. So then working with people that could give me information that can make this screenplay a lot deeper. And going through that is where I got in some, it was beyond how bad this really is.
So you really wanted to understand every aspect of what's going on before.
So I did a movie called Frequency and got to see things I couldn't believe. You know, just seeing a person that's dead and how they die and what it looks like is fascinating. And then how jaded these guys are when they stick Bengay in their noses and go into a room and you can taste stench. I mean, you can taste it. I worked on a farm in Hanford, California, and you know, my job was to get the cattle in the chutes, and the vets would, you know, put these vaccinations in them, and every now and then, one of these big heifers would die, so we'd tie wire around their hooves and, you know, drag them out, and it was so hot when we went back. Next day, the stench was beyond anything. Now you put human beings in there, and so, okay. So when I go and do a film, you playing these guys, you get to see what they're like. You get to see how they talk. And one guy's eating a sandwich while that stench is in the room and doesn't even bug him. You know, one of my buddies was pulling something out of a river, and it was just horrid. And he's eating a bagel with cream cheese in it, and his lox. He's just, you know, he's like, "Are you kidding me? You're eating right now?" He goes, "I'm hungry." But that's so important, because you can't. That's stuff that you got to put in the screenplay. You know, that has to be there, and you kind of understand who they are, where they've been, and everything. And I always go to mass and I pray and everything, and I'm always looking at a corpus on a cross. And eventually, you know, my life, unlike you, I know I'm gonna die someday. But we all are gonna die, right? So, you know, I wanted the people to have the most real experience that they could have on the screen to a certain point, you know. And then the other balance is, when you walk out of this film, your heart's on fire. This thing's unbelievable. It's an incredible movie. So we can't show you all that stuff that I've seen, but I can take you right to the edge, Alfred Hitchcock, and to understand how real it is. And one of the big things I was going through is Tim couldn't keep any of these agents for long because it was so bad with kids. And so there's a scene in there. So the stuff that I did get to see that made me weep, I started thinking about that. And so what we did, and for those of you who are going to see this movie and don't want to know about this part, then shut your tell them. Mm-hmm. But we were shooting this, and I had this idea where we took the camera, and this particular scene, you don't see it, but this video, this man goes over and rapes this little girl. And
how old?
7. And you don't see it in the film, but you see him start to make the move. And then I asked the DP not to tell Alejandro, the director, this, but I asked him shoot. So I took the video monitor and moved it into my eyeball, so you could see my iris. So the eyeball is 20 feet in a movie theater, and you see it start to sweat, and you don't know, you can't quite make out what's going on. And then the eyeball, from what I'd seen, and the screaming is the hardest thing.
The sound of it.
So the sound of freedom, there's a sound that you hear from these little ones that is so horrific that you'll never forget it. And for 2 years, I could never forget it. I had a friend of mine that came to my house, and in the morning she's weeping, and she came over, her name is Debbie. She was hugging me. Why? I said, "What's wrong?" "You were bawling." "I don't really? What was I doing?" So I had been sleeping, and I go to this dark place. And my body had to process this out in my dreams. And a lot of them I don't remember. But I had to pray deeply. But it motivated me to want to get these sons of bitches. And this is where I say it's the only unforgivable sin. And they don't deserve to live any longer what they've done. Jesus says, better a millstone be hung around their necks, that they be cast into the sea, that you should ever hurt one of these little ones. So, the film is fantastic that way. It's powerful. It's no studio can make this film. This is the movie they don't want you to see, and especially the devil doesn't want you to see this. But when you are done, people don't get up from the theater. They sit like they did in The Passion, like they did in Schindler's List. You cry, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna do all this stuff, but there's a huge adventure. Be on the edge of your seat, but eventually, when enough people walk out of this, they're gonna start looking at, wait a minute, this Miss Rodas on April 26 gave testimony, sworn testimony, that 85,000 children disappeared across the border. Just disappeared. Where did they go? And then you start wondering, wait a minute. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Public is now going, hey, three-letter agencies, what do you really know about what's going on here? And I think most Americans are waking up to the fact they know what the hell is going on.
How long did you immerse yourself in that environment to understand understand how profound this problem is?
One day.
It only took one day.
No, on that part, one day. Not even that. Just, I couldn't take it. But I had to understand what he was going through. And I didn't know it was going to go there. It was more like, are you sure you want to go further than this? And I saw this movie a long time ago called Silent Scream. They were saying the baby in the womb screams when they tear it apart, they pull it out. That was hard to watch. And from that point on, I was always pro-life after seeing that. But the difference is, on the outside, you get to hear him scream. And now, the only way to combat that is to get them. And so my weapon is acting. My weapon is film. And I can use that and be the voice in that film through Tim and from God coming in. And it's a most important film since The Passion of the Christ. These are films that will never be forgotten. I remember when Tim came down and asked me how it was going, and I said, we have lightning in a bottle. Well, you think it's gonna come out? No, it's taken us several years to get this thing out. And the devil didn't want this one out. But too late now.
What kind of deterrence did you encounter during this film?
It was like I had a friend of mine that survived Immaculée Ilibigeza. She survived Rwanda. She said for 12 weeks she was living in a bathroom, and they killed over 1 million people in a short period of time. I wouldn't say it's that, but before Rwanda occurred, she said it was like an evil, like a Christmas in reverse for those 12 weeks in Rwanda when that was going on. And so prior to that, before the day of reckoning, it was when you would go down the street and you would hear them saying, they'd come up to you. So if you're in Mexico, they would say, do you want niños? You want mujeres, women. And the cigars would have tried to find, but when you go down to Colombia, they would be like, you want mujeres, women, and then they would say, you want niñas, little boys, little girls. So you got to see like that. And then when they were doing the film, they were running operations down there while we were there. Tim also, there's a gal, the villain in the film, she's a real character. She was out of prison at that time. And so you got pressure from the people to arrest, and then the ones on the inside, and I'm sure from the world that is involved in this, because I think I think it goes all the way to Planned Parenthood, the jugs of plastic containers they use the children. I think those go to the biolabs. And I don't say, I should say that I know they do that. They send them to places like that all over the world. These biolabs, I think this is part of the whole business.
What do they do with them in the biolabs when they receive them?
Well, either making the adrenochrome or they're using it to, from what I was told, is that, and also for making agents to, kill people with it. So, if I'm a half Irish, half Swiss, they can get my DNA code and create a cocktail, put it off in an airplane, and I'm the only one that dies of a heart attack in the plane. And then you watch a James Bond movie, and you go, boy, that's really weird. So.
Wow.
Again, this is way, way ahead of the public narrative. But, I talked to some, this is not something where it's suggested to me that this is probably why this world cabal is involved in all of this stuff. And it has a lot to do with the blood of our children. The public is now awakening to the trafficking, but eventually leads you to other places like Epstein Island. And in this film, we showed it to about 1,500 people in Las Vegas. And during a certain part of the film, they were all talking in the audience. There was like 5 showings every single time, talking. So at the end of it all, I thanked them all for coming, and then I said, why, during this part, you were talking? And they all yelled out, Epstein Island. And I said, now I understand why they don't want this to be seen.
That's heavy.
It's listed in the NIH, adrenochrome. Organ harvesting is another whole. That's when the whole thing went off with me with Tim Ballard, when he started talking to me about that. But again, I'm here to. We don't go into that in the film. The film is phenomenal. I probably just chased away millions of people from wanting to watch this movie.
No, you didn't.
The film, the film is like It's a Wonderful Life. It's what? This is about what and how? Yeah, I know. What does this have to do with the tea in China? It is, if you weren't around Tim Ballard, none of these children are going to live. And as hard as it has been for him, he was willing to take it in the heart for Jesus. And King David, when David was a boy, same thing. And I was the same thing. And God doesn't make junk. But he can use things that you've been through in your past. And he can take you to a level that it's supernatural. It's just no way to explain it. I was the best I ever was on that movie because I was unafraid. And that love is the greatest in its form, highest form, is the best you'll ever be if you get to that place that you give your life for and I'd give my life for these kids. That's what it did.
We're not chasing anybody away with this audience. We had spoke about, I just did an episode with this guy, Ryan Montgomery, who's an ethical hacker, and he's unveiling, he weighs about 85 pounds, and he's going after these guys by himself now. He's moving into other organizations, and it was the fastest growing episode that I've ever had. And that's saying a lot, because we've had some really big ones, and this kid came out of nowhere. He's got, how do I say this? He doesn't have a lot of clout around him. Nobody's ever heard of him. And it just went, sparked the interest of everybody. And with this film, do you think this film is going to bring truth, but also educate kids, parents, on how this is happening, where it starts, and put the fear into people, into pedophiles and predators that are targeting these children?
I don't know. I was reading this thing, and I would absolutely say it's 100% the truth. They will never be able to walk down the street again. That's coming, without a doubt, and it will be a great day. This needs to be done. This is the worst time in the history of all humanity right now we're living in. You know, when you read biblical times, we're 8.5 billion people on this earth. Biblical times, not that many people, but when you read Moses, they killed the babies. During the time of Jesus, Herod, they killed the babies. They tried to annihilate them. It's the same thing, same devil. And this is gonna end. I know it, but whether I live, that I would give my life to make this end. And that's where I'm completely connected to Tim in this role. And King David, or David, is the 16-year-old. And that, you know, God could come to us and, you know, be from small towns and just say, you know, all you got to do is cry out to God and ask him, what's my purpose in this life? And certainly it can't be one of being afraid, and to trust Jesus that he's got you, man. You know, I know that a lot of people out there right now have recently had to, my dear friends who committed suicide, and a lot of people want to know, you know, if God loves them or not. I heard this a long time ago, and it goes, your name may not appear down here in this World's Hall of Fame. In fact, you may be so unknown that no one knows your name. The Oscars and the praise of men may never come your way, but don't forget, God has rewards that he'll hand out someday. This crowd on earth, they will soon forget when you're not at the top. They'll cheer like mad until you fall, and then their praise will stop. Not God, he never does forget. And in his Hall of Fame, by just believing on his Son, forever there's your name. I tell you, friend, I wouldn't trade my name, however small, that's written there beyond the stars in that celestial hall, for all the famous names on earth or the glory that they share. I'd rather be an unknown here and have my name up there.
Thank you for saying that. When is this coming out?
4th of July.
We'll link everything below. It's a heavy topic.
You know, the things we talked about can all be verified. So all you fact checkers out there, you these fact checkers, you go to college for that, get a master's degree in fact checking. You know,
public stop falling for this fact-checking stuff. They need to meet my fact-checkers. One of them you know, and we mentioned him earlier. He'll verify all the stuff that I've told you. So those guys, they should be terrified of those guys.
Fact-checking's turned into suppression.
Yes, it is. Bingo.
Do you think you'll continue this fight with the children after this film's released?
Oh, I'll never stop. Because of my own children. My own adopted children. I was very aware of the dangers and the pains I've gone through on a global scale, just through the adoption agencies and everything. You know, you have to verify people when they come in and, you know, we help save children. Pfft. A lot of these guys are honeypotters. They come in and they're wolves in sheep clothing. So, and they're not there to save the children. They're there to take the children, make money off them.
I think we need to get Tim Ballard in here.
Yeah.
Tim as well. What's next for you, Jim? I know you have
Resurrection.
Resurrection.
I would think so, or Sound of Freedom too. But as far as the industry, you know, it's a different thing now, because, you know, if you want to win an Academy Award, you know, you have to have an L, a G, a B, a T, a Q, plus something, and that just it's insane. Some of the greatest films of all time would never qualify for the Academy anymore.
Well, I think the clout of all those awards is diminishing very rapidly.
Yes.
Amongst the public, and we're seeing that.
Oh,
with
it's
everything.
coming out. People are. I mean, look at Buddy Light, man. I used to drink that all the time. I'll drink regular water or my own piss before I touch that.
Good for you. The Resurrection.
Yeah.
When does that start? Is it started?
Yeah. Oh, the writing. Yes. I know. I asked him, "Would you be ready to go in January?" He said, "Yeah, maybe." So how about the end of the fall? He goes, "Yeah, maybe." September? I said, "Yeah, maybe." He's so funny, because last time he did that, I said, "Okay, well, won't be till January," and then all of a sudden I get the call, "Hey, you ready?" And we went in September, October. So who knows? I know he's working on that right now. He's doing a movie with Wahlberg, so he's finishing that. But he's been on this for a long time, and then it will be the biggest film in history. It might be 2 films, could be 3, but I think it's 2.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for that. And then you have another project coming out as well. Sounds like it's going to be a 4-part docuseries, if I'm correct.
That's Tim's. They haven't come to me for that yet.
Okay.
But, yeah. But there'll be. They wrote this second Sound of Freedom, and that's even better script than this. The first. The first is pretty darn good. So there's that.
Can I ask what that's about?
The second one,
Yes.
Haiti.
It's about Haiti.
Yeah.
Is that... Why
Just-
Haiti specifically?
Because he went down there and did that operation down there. So it's just like, it's not so much Sound of Freedom 2. Okay, it's just, this is the next mission that he did.
Okay. Okay, so this is gonna keep going.
Well, based on the success of this film, the people love it enough, the demand's there, the screenplay is there. I mean, it always is the screenplay, everything, yeah, at the level of it, and then at that point, it's a lot of prayer and
these aren't easy. I don't get the easy ones.
Yeah.
Learning Aramaic was crazy hard.
How do you manage all this personally? I mean, you're taking on a lot of weight covering this type of, or being a part of this type of a topic with sex trafficking.
I have nowhere else to go. This is where I go back to the movie theater. It was like, this is, take the ones I give you, okay. You know, but I didn't know I could do this. I just believe in him. Before I even believe in myself, I believe in him. And if he says I can do it, I know I can, because he says it. It's a difference between actors that I work with that are phenomenal. They think the talent came from them. Mine came from God. Now, I'll boast in my talent from God any day. I'm not afraid of any actor in the world. But again, it keeps me simple. In just, you know, it keeps me away from getting too haughty-toddy and just being ready, you know, to. Humility is a great. Mother Teresa said humility comes from humiliation. So when I get humiliated, and the last 2 years on the adrenochrome was quite humiliating. But I knew one day the truth is coming, and it's coming. So, you know, and as I said, I'm not the easiest guy to love. My wife will tell you that, but, you know, I am loved. And I've got my children that I love, and they love me, you know. So I've got a good thing there.
There are rumors out that you and Mel Gibson are going to come together to expose some of the stuff that's going on in Hollywood. Is there truth to that?
Not really.
Okay.
I think what you're seeing right now is, you know, he did his part, I'm doing mine.
I'm glad you're doing it. Nobody else is going to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Jim, I just want to say it was a real honor to have you in here today, and I appreciate the conversation and the time, and most of all, thank you for being a good role model and somebody that kids can look up to, adults can look up to, and find some solid direction.
Can I say something to your audience?
Absolutely.
Mila thieloko marehe mahaki hida. Hita hiwu dinale dina kokavel diana avef lakom. Antun, hita hiwu lakom. My commandment to you is this: you love one another as I have loved you, so you love one another.
Everybody on the show always gets a gift, and usually it's a bag of Vigilance Elite gummy bears from my company. But for you, I wanted to give you this rosary.
Oh.
And so I want to tell you about that rosary. When I found my faith, I got public about it, and a good friend of mine, his name's Dom Razzo, we were together at SEAL Team 2, and then he went on to development group SEAL Team 6. And when he saw that I'd come out and announced my faith, he sent me that rosary to give me protection, and I've carried it with me every day since.
My goodness.
And with the stuff that you're about to uncover with this new film,
Yeah.
Sounds of Freedom, I think maybe you're going to need some of that protection. So it's my honor to pass that on to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.